Intanto ci siamo lasciati dall'altra stanza dove Sergio Masini stava appunto parlando di simulazione, di quanto questa sia importante. Oggi vedremo il designer di un gioco molto semplice, però fortemente ambientato e accurato dal punto di vista simulativo, che è proprio Dreaded Flags di un autore che in realtà collabora, questa è la sua prima produzione indipendente, che collabora con tutta una serie di case editrici molto importanti, che è Wouter. In particolare oggi vediamo come sostanzialmente anche attraverso strumenti semplici è possibile arrivare a produrre un qualche cosa. Parleremo con lui di quelli che sono gli aspetti peculiari anche della creazione, come si arriva alla creazione di un gioco. Eccolo qui. Okay, Wouter, you are on the stage. Okay?
Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much for your time. So I would like to introduce yourself. Actually, Wouter is known by us as a designer of Dreaded Flags, a new game, a very simple game, but with some historical flavor and some simulation issues. So I think that we need to know, first of all, I will introduce you, but actually I would invite everyone to send via the chat the questions for you, if any. But before interacting with the public, I would be very pleased to ask you something about yourself and your production. Okay, so who is Wouter? Can you tell us something about you in person?
Yeah, sure. So my name is Wouter. I live in Belgium. I'm 36, married, and I have 2 children. And Dreaded Flags is my first game, so my first experience with designing a game and also working as a visual artist for my own game.
Okay, thank you. Actually, so we are speaking with the designer. So for us, the designer is someone that realized something, a game for us to play with history, with the simulation, with modern conflicts, with the hypotheses. So you play an important role as a designer in this conference, but why did you become a game designer? Which was the issue, the push to become a designer of a game?
I've always been designing games for a very long time. Even as a kid, I used to design my own games. Even if I didn't know there was something like historical games or war games. So I invented them myself. And then I started working as a graphic designer and illustrator. And a couple of years ago, I was lucky enough to start working with a couple of publishers of games I really enjoy. So can I show some of my work, perhaps?
Yes, of course, please. You are free.
This ties in with the rest of my answer.
Yeah, the stage is yours.
Do you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. So this is a game I've been working on the last year. This is for VUCA, a publisher from Germany. And I was very lucky to work on this game because it shows everything I can. It shows all my skills. I worked on the map and the counter art, the box cover, really everything. And these are some other examples of work I did: counter illustrations and card illustrations. This is for the left one is for Phalanx from Poland. The middle is for Fourth Circle from the States. And the right one is coming soon on a War Diary Productions. So this is a bit my background, let's say, and the work I did. So by working with these companies, with these people that are involved in game design, it was only logic to somehow have an idea at a certain point. I was thinking like, perhaps I could design a game as well. I never took that seriously. It was always more of a hobby thing. So Dreaded Flags was my first effort in taking my hobby a bit more seriously.
Yeah, thank you. Actually, I think that there is a strong connection among the hobby and the professional way of doing the same things, because actually, I think that everything is dominated in every domain by passion. So I think that it is quite easy to move from the hobby to the professional activities and back. So in this afternoon, we will have Lorenzo Nanetti that use historical simulation and new games for hypotheses to do some analysis on the current worldwide situation. So I think that there is a strong connection by all from all our activities. But apart from this, you mentioned that you are a designer, you collaborate with a number of important companies. Some of them are very well known, especially VUCA, that is on the top right now with a lot of titles that are quite approachable for everyone. And but can you tell us about Wouter as a player? So, do you play games or just design? Have you got time to play games or not anymore?
Yeah, I try to play as much games as possible. um, and I think that's really a benefit as well in this type of work, is that if you play the games as well, publishers and designers, they value your opinion a lot, because you can really say, like, you can optimize the player experience because you have first-hand experience with playing the game. You can say, like, this piece on the map isn't clear enough because I will redesign this, or this is not in the right spot, it's not convenient to reach it, so I will turn it around, for example. So that's very convenient. And I have a couple of games next to me that I'm playing at the moment, so I will drag these off the shelf. So Paul of Rome
Yeah.
is in the pandemic system, but is light historical, you could say. I play a lot of pandemic with friends and family, so that's a nice twist, that extra historic layer. Then at the moment I'm also playing We Are Coming Nineveh, designed by Brian Train, amongst others, published by Nuts, on the Battle of Mosul, so modern conflict. Obviously, one from VUCA, a very heavy reproduction of a Task Force, game by a Japanese designer. Beautiful components. I'm also playing Captain C. It's a Mike Nagel design, published by Legion, and Mike is currently working on a second volume in the same system. And then obviously Norman Conquest, brand new, in the Man of Iron system, when I test played for GMT. So yeah, I try to play a lot of games.
Okay, I see, and they are all very well-known titles actually. And actually, my question is related with your relationship with the GMT, because I recently had the opportunity to see the box and the manuals of these new Norman Conquests, and I understood that you had an experience with this title. Can you tell more about the relationship with the GMT and your activity in particular with this title, that is the utmost recent title from GMT in the Man of Iron series?
Yeah, correct. So for GMT, I don't work with them in a professional capacity, so it's really just test playing I'm doing with them at the moment for everything that is from the Man of Iron series, and I started doing this with Arquebus, so the previous volume. I test played that, but that's already, I think, 5 or 6 years ago, something like that. Back in the day, everything used to be analog, so they sent me an envelope. I think it's cool for you guys to see. So they used to send me an envelope, and it has these hand-drawn maps
Okay.
for the For Novo scenario. So we used to play everything analog, and then we communicate via forum with the developer. That was Rolf Sheldon at the moment, and with the designer that was Richard Burke, who was still alive back then. And a year or two ago, I think Rolf reached out and asked me if I would join again for another round of test play, but this time for Norman Conquest, which is a topic I'm even more interested than the topic of Arquebus. I'm very interested in everything medieval, and Norman Conquest is really very interesting topic for me. And so I test played that, but these days everything's test played via Vassal, so it's digital, and for this test play I was behind the screen a lot, which I don't enjoy that much. I prefer paper.
Okay. Is there a direct relationship among the designer and the play tester, or is there such a moderation about you and the real designer of the game?
A lot of it is moderated, so they are asking specifics about, for example, how long did the game take you, which side won, and perhaps a bit of some of your tactics. Sometimes they also give you certain challenge, like what would happen if you would attack with your left flank first, for example, and then you can try and see if that works. One of these scenarios, I believe it was Evesham, somehow wasn't really balanced. Each time we played it, we had a different outcome that was not the historic outcome, so there was something wrong. And it was only by test playing that scenario a number of times that we were able to spot some of the issues.
Okay, thank you. And actually, we at Ludo Storia consider the game as a tool to approach history, to increase knowledge, to verify some hypotheses and some specific issues with the time you are simulating. Actually, we do not trust play just for the play itself, tournaments and so on, competitive play, while we would like to use more the play as a tool to reach some other issues. First of all, knowledge at different levels, from the schools to the modern analysts of the current situation and so on. Does history play a role in your production or not?
Yes, for Dreaded Flags, absolutely. I do, yeah, like I said, I play a lot of historical games and war games, and for me, this is only logic. It's my favorite way of learning about history. I see it as just another tool, as another way of studying history. You can either go to school and study history, or watch some documentaries, or read books, or you can play a game. And I really enjoy playing a game and learning history that way. Reading the background story or doing some research if it's a topic I don't know much about. So I think it's a very important and a very accessible way of teaching history via games. Yeah.
Okay, and actually, I personally found that a number of new games tend to describe years that have not been discussed by usual titles. So let's speak about World War II. Actually, this period of time is very well present for a number of different systems. While I noticed that in the latest years, I think 2 or 3 years, the major publishers are focusing also on other periods, such as Maori, medieval India, just to speak about Compass Games and the GMT games, and of course also pirates. What do you think? Are these new opportunities for different periods of time, and opportunities to speak about a different situation in the ancient world to the people where they do not have time to face this at school?
Yes, there are definitely opportunities. It doesn't always have to be another game about the Battle of the Bulge, for example. There are already a lot of systems exploring the more popular, well-known topics of the Second World War, for example. If you compare this to, let's say, medieval warfare, there are not that many games. So I'm very happy with that type of interest, because it's also my main interest. I'm much more interested in ancient warfare, for example. So one thing I also noticed with these new systems is it's almost like a kind of experimental archaeology. Let's say if it's a topic from way back when, like naval warfare in ancient times, for example, there's not much known about it. And by creating a game, it's like exploring, like researching and exploring what would happen if these ships were built this way and if they could maneuver that way. And it's by creating that system that they are exploring these topics and these inventions. So yeah, fascinating.
Yeah, of course, they are fascinating. This is the reason because I bought your game also for my children, actually. But I think that all my children are quite fascinated by board games, by 3D games, and so on. And I play test a number of different scenarios from different games. But coming to Dreaded Flags, we recognize that actually also the title itself is quite affordable in terms of price because actually we are speaking about a book, some rules, and of course you wanted to have it available worldwide. So the distribution comes from Amazon systems, and also I think that there are other possibilities. You can move from the rule book to the 3D miniatures. You can have a great flexibility in this. Could we consider your product also as a sandbox, something that we can use in different ways, focusing on pirates, not only on pirates, but actually to build something for new experiences? And can you tell us something about your book and your game?
Okay, so I don't know if you could really call it a sandbox, not at least the way it is at the moment. So if you buy the book, it comes with 8 scenarios, and so you can play one of those 8 scenarios. But on the other hand, it also has the possibility of creating your own scenario. So in that way, I already had a couple of questions from people who were asking, could I use the same system, the same ideas to create a scenario based in the Napoleonic age, for example? And perhaps that's possible, yes. So with a little bit of scaling, you could alter the system and use it on a slightly different topic. Yeah.
And actually, I think that there are different levels of difficulty. Actually, you can play this as a basic game or an advanced game if you consider, for example, the effect of the wind, different armament, and so on. And I read from the description that your game tends to balance historical accuracy with straightforward and intuitive gameplay. Could you tell more about this historical flavor, the historical simulation details, and also any eventual constraints you identified in producing, in designing this historical game?
Yeah, so it was my vision to create a game that was really entry level. So it would introduce this historic type of game to new players, people who play a game but not necessarily ever played a historical game, or never played a hex and counter game or a war game per se. So it had to be easy and fast playing. And then I could add a layer of historical flavor, indeed. So this was really I was always looking to find the right balance with it. And that was the most challenging part, because you can always add levels of realism and create a super complex game. And I think creating a complex game, it's not that difficult if you do a lot of research and you have a basic mechanic that is underlying your design. Let's say you use a lot of dice rolling. You can add modifiers till infinity. You can make a very complex game. That's not difficult. But if you would create such a game, it would not be entry level. So it would scare a lot of people away. Now, on the other hand, if you just make a game that is just fun to play without any historical foundation, that's not the type of game I wanted to make neither. I really wanted to, like I said, want to create a certain tool that you could use for education. So I also started working on pirates because it's just something I find fascinating, and I like those stories. They speak to your imagination. But at the time, I was really thinking about how would these people fought with their small ship in a way, and they didn't have much manpower and not much guns. So I was really interested in the reality behind the myth. So I would try and scrape all the fantasy elements away and just make a game about the truth about these pirates, their small ships, their limited number of guns, and the way they fought, and the importance of a charismatic captain, for example.
Yeah.
Sorry, does it answer your question?
Yes, of course. We will ask you to suggest us some books where to take some inspiration. Of course, we know very well Blackbird, and so I think that you can give us some indications about new volumes in order to be more quite near to the historical simulation rather than on the legends. So because I think that the pirates era is fascinating because of the two elements, but I think that you are the right people to tell us more about shipment issues on the armaments and so on. So I think that please send us some recommendations about the book that you used in order to face all other themes rather than the legends about the pirates. Okay, so I think that this is your time, just not wasting more time in questions, but can you show us your game and our opportunity to learn from the game?
Yes, so I will share again this the presentation. So that you see my screen now?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Yeah, perfect. So I will try and give you a very broad overview of the game without going too much into detail. So if whenever I go too much into detail, feel free to interrupt me. It's sometimes difficult to keep that high level. So let's start with the components. Like you already said, it's available on Amazon as a book. So you can think more about it as a rule set instead of just like a traditional game. I noticed this already a bit I learned this a bit the hard way, that if you say it's a book war game, people consider it a game that is solitaire only. And so this is a bit of a mistake, because this is basically a game about ship duels. So you normally would play this with another player. So a two-player game. Of the 8 scenarios, are playable with a number of players, and 2 scenarios are dedicated solitaire. So as a solitaire player, you also have opportunities to play these 2 scenarios. So it's available as a book. It's also available nowadays on a wargame vault. So you can buy the PDF and print it yourself. And from either the book or your prints, you can create your own components. You really don't need much components. And that's why I say you can also think of it as a rule set. So if you have miniatures, you can play the game with miniatures as well, as you will see from the pictures I have. So you can see the book here, and I also show you a picture of how the rules look like. Again, I also work as a visual artist, so for me it was a big part of the fun to create the cover and to lay out the rules in a way I found pleasing. So it's a big, rather big font, a lot of white space, so very very easy to read, very readability. So and if you're a bit of a crafter like myself, you can have your different you can cut the book and create a couple of smaller books. I have them call bound. So there's a rule book, and then there's a book with scenarios, a couple of charts, and a few counters, so ship counters. And the game also comes with 3 maps. So those are hex-based maps. So like I said, if you have miniatures, you can also use your own hex-based map. I even had a request of a couple of people who want to play the game without hexes, and with a bit of scaling, that's also possible. So that is for the components. Like I said, you can also play with miniatures. That's how I prefer to play the game. So these are my miniatures, and you see the map. I had it enlarged, so I play on a larger map. But if you don't have much table space, you can really, I don't know. You see my webcam still?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Okay. So let me show you. This is the map that comes with the game. So as you can see, you really don't need that much table space. It's convenient if you have a bit more space, but that's not necessary. So let's take a quick look at the sequence of play. How does the game works? So we have only 4 phases, and the first phase is the planning phase. So as you can see on the picture, all players have a ship log, and on that ship log they can write the status of their ship, and they keep track of their movement. So during planning phase, people at the same time will write down, they will calculate their movement points, and then they will write down their planned move in secret on the ship log. And that's also during the planning phase that people can decide on trying to repair. So if you will try a repair on your ship, you cannot fire during the turn, so you have to decide that early on in the turn. And so after all people have written down their move, they will make the move simultaneous during the second phase, that's the movement phase. So as you can see, there's a possibility that ships will collide because you don't know the move of the other player. And that's also why the system is difficult for solitaire players, because there's this hidden element which is very fun if you play with other players. It's like you have this cat and mouse element, like this bit of bluff. Will he go to the left or will he go to the right? And you try to anticipate, which in reality often makes that the ships are just doing very surprising moves. And if you're adjacent to one another, you can also try and grapple the other ship, which is necessary to try a boarding action. We're talking about pirates, so boarding is an important thing in the game. And so this takes us already to the third phase. So after all people have moved their ship, it's time for combat, which is really the meat of the game. So first you have a cannon fire sub-phase, and cannon fire is resolved very quickly. It works with a bucket of dice, as you would say. So you have a number of guns, and on a chart you check how many dice you can roll for this number of guns. And then you will check how far you're away of the opponent's ship, and then this results in a certain hit number. So if you're closer, you have a lower hit number. So rolling high in the game is always good. Rolling low in the game is always bad, no matter which type of check you need to do. This was also one of the things I found important during designing the game. If I wanted to make a game that is logic for people who never played a war game, this is just a small detail, but people find it very confusing if they need to roll a 1 at a certain point, and on the other end, they need to roll a 6, for example. So in this game, rolling high is always good. And so this way you will score a number of hits, and you will cross-reference this on the chart and see which hits you scored. And so the game comes with a very small chart, so it's not like other naval games. For example, Flying Colors has a double page with tables. Once you roll on that table, you have to check which table you actually rolled on, and then you have to check for the type of hits you have done. So this game only uses one simple table, And if you roll the number of times on the table, you even know it by heart. So that's very, very easy, very convenient. We had a bit of a discussion actually with the playtesters, because some playtesters didn't find this. They felt like they didn't have enough agency when it came to firing the shot, and they were used to firing to either aim at the hull or firing at the rigging. So I don't know if there are other people in the audience who are playing a lot of naval war games, but this is a very typical component about a naval war game, is that the player can either aim at the hull or at the rigging of a ship. And I didn't find any sources that pirates actually did fire that strategically. I think if you only have, let's say, eight cannons, you just fire all 8 of them and just see where they land. So I'm not sure if that's a realistic thing, but this was something people asked if that was something we could use in the game. And so we came up with a very simple solution for that. I created a second table. It's called an optional table, but I think I enjoyed it very much, this table. So I'm very happy with the change. And so how does this work? You just have your regular dice you're rolling for your cannon fire. You just add 2 colored dice to your dice pool and roll everything. So your cannon fire just stays the same. You just see how many hits you scored. So for example, you roll 3 hits. So you then check the optional table. And for the optional table, you just make the sum of your colored dice. So let's say you roll the 7 on with the sum of your colored dice, and then you just see, all right, I just scored 3 hits, and I rolled a 7, which results either in this or this type of hit, whether you aimed at the hull or at the rigging. So that's really a very simple but very nice layer of more realism, of more detail. And also more player agency, because players can more strategically decide whether they want to do more damage to your hull and your crew, for example, or more likely to slow you down by damaging yourselves, for example. So that's how we went about that. And then after the cannon fire, we have musket fire. So some scenarios will state that your ship is crewed with a number of marines, and they will climb into your rigging and fire musket fire to your opponent, which is not super effective, but it's there. And then if ships are grappled together, we have a boarding subphase. Now the thing about boarding is this is always very risky. Even if you're on the winning side, even if you have a higher morale compared to your opponent, you're not 100% sure if you're not 100% sure what will happen. Because this is also based in just the reality of the thing. There are sources, for example, where and they tell that a number of the crew was actually hidden in the hull. And so when the pirates estimated the size of the crew, they were thinking like, oh, we only see a couple of people over there, so this will go down easily. So they boarded the ship, and then as a surprise attack, the hidden crew jumped out of the deck and surprised the pirates. So it's always a very chaotic, very unpredictable situation. So yeah, it's fun, because even if you're on the losing side at the moment, if you're boarded, you always have a chance of doing a lot of damage to your opponent, or perhaps even winning the ship and winning the battle. So that's the boarding phase, and then just a picture here of the counters as they come with the book. So on the back cover of the book, you can just cut out the counters and use those to play with. So that's how they look. And then we have a 4th phase, which is the housekeeping phase. It looks a lot here on the screen, but it's really a very fast phase. So if you fired your guns, you can reload during the housekeeping phase. If you fired both sides, both broadsides, so left and right broadside, you can only reload one of the 2. So that's something to consider. And if you planned your repair at the beginning of the phase, you can now roll on another table for possible repair. Repair is also pretty hard, pretty unpredictable, but it's something you can try in the heat of the moment. So a little catch-up mechanic there. And then the most important thing about the housekeeping phase is that you can roll for a possible wind change. So some scenarios have a very calm and steady wind, but some scenarios are recorded that there was a storm going on. So at that point, the wind is very unpredictable. And like you also said, you can see this even as an optional rule. If you like to start with a more simple rule set, you just skip the whole wind change phase. Because I noticed the movement phase and the calculation of movement points is the most difficult part for players, I would say. Because we have ships moving, it's age of sail, so we have ships moving with the wind, and so the position of the ship compared to the wind direction will determine how much movement points your ship has. So that does take a little bit of experience with the game. And is also something that makes the game interesting, I think. Two things I didn't mention in the sequence of play here is the importance of the captain. So you have each ship starts with a captain, and the charismatic captain is very important for the morale of your crew. So will likely give you a higher morale, and the more damage your ship is going to take, the more the morale is likely to drop. And it's also possible to have your captain killed during gunfire, which happened a lot actually. This was a very risky business. So pirate life is a very risky thing. So it's likely, it's possibly that your captain gets killed, which means also a blow to the morale of your crew. And then another very important component in the game is the rule that is called crew focus. And so this means that every ship has a small option each turn. So it's like a wild card you can use. So either you focus your crew on sailing, or you focus your crew on the gunfire, for example, or on repairs. So this gives you a little bit of an extra nudge in the right direction. It gives you a little bit more agency of directing your crew to something that you find important during that phase. So it gives the game just a little bit more of a nice flow. And so after that, you start again, and each scenario will list a number of turns. Usually a scenario is played, I would say, something between a big half an hour and perhaps 2 hours for the more larger scenarios, which means you can play the game with a friend in one sitting during the evening, for example. Also something I found important when I speak about entry point game is, I think a game shouldn't last much longer than 2 hours if you're playing with a friend who is not used to playing long war games, for example. So like I said, the game is available on Amazon worldwide. It's printed in an Amazon store near you. So whether you're in Italy or you're in Australia, there's an Amazon there who will print the book as locally as possible and then ship it to you, usually in a matter of days. So that's very, very convenient. Print quality is also very nice of the book, I would say. Even to the point I got the remark of people who really don't like damaging the book. So they just download all the components on Board Game Geek. So everything is there except the charts. The charts is the reason why you should buy the book or the PDF. They are the engine behind the game. So it's also available as a print and play on Wargame Vault, and I'm very happy to say I now finally have a score on Board Game Geek. So I'm happy with the 8.6 rating I have at the moment on Board Game Geek. And there's a QR code there for the people who are watching this. You can scan this and go to the file page on Board Game Geek, where you find all the components I just showed you. And this is also, I find this very fascinating. It's my first game, so I'm surprised by all the responses I got from people so far. And this is a screenshot from a guy in Korea. So shout out to Biol Bam for all his efforts. He is recording a lot of playthroughs on YouTube in Korea, so I don't understand a word of it. Luckily, you have the YouTube auto translate, which gives you an idea of what he's talking about. And from what I can see, he's playing the game correctly and with a lot of enthusiasm. He's having a lot of fun, and he's sharing his game with his friends, and his friends also seems very very positive. There's always people joining. So for me to see my game popping up in Korea is absolute fantastic.
Yeah, of course. Congratulations. Actually, a well-deserved success you had from this first game. But
Thanks a lot.
just a question, because we didn't mention it during the presentation. What about the experience of a bunch of children in using the system? Is it possible, in your experience, to use the game with the children at schools, for example?
Sorry, can you ask the question again?
What about the children experience? Do you consider this suitable for them or not?
Yes, so I have two children myself. They're age 6 and 8, so they're pretty young, but they are playing a lot of games with us, even rather complex games, I would say. So I try and play the game with them as it is at the moment, and I consider it too difficult for them. That's why I worked on let's say a junior Dreaded Flags. I'm intending to finalize it and publish the simplified rules on Board Game Geek for free. I have some yeah. So this is how it looks at the moment.
Okay.
So it's very sketchy. It's a simplified table, simplified chart. We changed some things. So, for example, the hidden movement was too difficult for them. So we play now just in a player turn sequence. So it's a more I go you go system, and the start player always passes after the turn. And so another small change we made is you can score a little bonus depending on how much hits, on how much damage you did on your opponent. So if you did a lot of damage to your opponent, you can pick from a number of bonuses, and you can use that bonus the next turn. And they found this very rewarding. So after each round, they have a little bonus, like a little gift, and they find this very rewarding. Keeps the game flowing. And as the rules are at the moment, you can play this easily with a group of 6 children. You have each child has his own ship that they have, and the scenario stops after one child has lost his ship, because otherwise they don't continue playing until only one is over. So the game stops after one child loses chip.
Okay. Thank you. So let's open to the questions of the public, if there is any, and please feel free to ask anything to Wouter. And in the meanwhile, if you do not have any specific questions, I would like to conclude with a couple of questions more, which is the next version. So have you got something in mind for the future? And of course, have you got any recommendations for want-to-be designers? Actually, you demonstrated that it is not simple, but it could be affordable, and it could be also practicable to publish nowadays with all the tools we have, with the diffusion, with the socials, and so on. So have you got any recommendations? And please, I ask the public if anyone has some questions to put them in the chat. I will translate for them.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I don't speak any Italian, so
No
apologies. About the future for the game, I still have some marketing to do. So I still have to focus on this game, and like I said, I will try and move away from selling this as a boxed game in a book, as I used to call it, and I will sell it more like a rule set, because once you speak about a rule set, people consider it more as a multiplayer game and not as a solitaire game as such. So that's a very important bit of learning for my part. I also talked a bit with Thomas van Heer, who is also a game designer for book war games, and his company is called Historic Wings. And he also gave me advice during the design of the game. So I'm very grateful for his advice as well. And he told me it's easiest if you stick to a certain topic. So I started with naval games, so I should continue creating naval games. So I find that a difficult position, actually. So I originally had the feeling I told everything I wanted to tell with this game. Originally, I wanted to create 10 scenarios because it felt like a nice package, like 10 scenarios. But honestly, I didn't find 10 exciting scenarios. So after 8 scenarios, I had something like, it's enough, on with it. But I published in May, I think, May or June. So in the meantime, I already have a new ID popping up. And this time it's another naval war game I have in mind. This time I hope it's going to be a solitaire system. So it's probably going to be another book war game. As a working title, it's called Dreaded Command. So it's going to be another ship duel game. Not sure it's going to be set in the age of pirates, but it's going to be naval conflict from the standpoint of a captain issuing orders to his lieutenants and to his crew. So it's going to be it's the same topic, but from a very different, very unique perspective. I don't think there's any game like that at the moment. Correct me if I'm wrong. But this is going to be a game about planning. So you as the captain, you will have to plan. It's a bit of like resource management, let's say. You will have to plan in advance the type of orders you are going to issue, to adjust the rigging, to adjust the sails, to load the cannons, to fire the cannons at the most opportune moment to do maximum of damage. But if you overstretch your ambitions, you are going to tire your crew, and that's the bit of the resource part. So that's all I have at the moment
Okay.
when it comes to Dreaded Command.
Yeah, great. Thank you for this sneak peek. Actually, we will wait you for the next conference and for the physical one, especially because I think that sometime it is better also to meet in person, and we will organize very soon a physical conference at the national level. So I will be very pleased
Beautiful.
to host you again. And thank you for your time. And I think that you gave us an impressive, in an impressive way, a sneak peek of your activity coming from your professional world to your work as a player, play tester, and also as a designer. So good luck for your title. I enjoy it very much with my children and other children and so on. So since the beginning, I trusted this could be a great title because also it is quite approachable and historical detailed. And so good luck for your activities, and thank you very much for your time here. I see that there are no other questions from the public, but this has been recorded, and also I would like to say that it is not possible by third parties as well as intelligent with the IA softwares and so on to reuse these images. So this is a privacy statement I have to say, of course, nowadays.
Thank you.
And actually, you will find this recording on our YouTube channel for diffusion and so on. So thank you very much for your time, and see you next time, actually.
Yes, I want to thank you for asking me to speak. It's really an honor and a pleasure for this, and congratulations on organizing the convention. It's It's a very, very beautiful, very nice organization, very streamlined. So I'm really impressed. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Wouter. Have a nice day. See you again.
Have a nice day.
Bye
Talk
bye.
soon. Bye.